Cincinnati police and Secret Service are investigating an alleged break-in attempt at Vice President JD Vance's home in Cincinnati.
1 minute ago, you finally saw what everyone is talking about, a federal-level escalation that isn't just another headline. A man with a hammer attacked the Ohio home of U.S. Vice President JD Vance, smashing windows and damaging a Secret Service vehicle in Cincinnati's East Walnut Hills. And now it's federal charges that change the stakes for everyone.
Before midnight, JD Vance and his family had already left for Washington, D.C. earlier that afternoon.
This wasn't garden-variety vandalism. It touched the security perimeter of a sitting vice president, something that only happens a handful of times in modern U.S. political history. Here's what you actually need to understand, but aren't hearing clearly yet.
A person is in custody after an alleged incident at Vice President JD Vance's Ohio home. It happened just after midnight.
It started shortly after midnight on January 5, 2026, when Secret Service agents assigned to protect Vance's Cincinnati residence heard a loud noise. They saw 26-year-old William D. DeFore running along the fence line toward the house, armed with a hammer. He crossed the restricted property, first smashing the window of an unmarked federal vehicle, a direct attack on a government asset, then ignored repeated commands from agents to stop. Instead, he used that same hammer to break multiple glass windows on the front of the home. DeFore attempted to flee on foot. He was quickly detained by Secret Service and Cincinnati police. No one was hurt, but the damage, more than $28,000 worth, just in glass and reinforced security features. So why did this suddenly explode right now and dominate search trends in the U.S.? Here's where context matters. JD Vance is not just any politician. He's the U.S. Vice President, a former Ohio senator with a national profile, and a figure at the center of the Republican Party's future strategy. Any direct attack on his home, even without injury, triggers federal investigation, national security protocols, and political blowback. This comes at a moment when threats against public officials have been rising, and the Secret Service is under scrutiny for how it classifies threats and protects elected leaders. An incident like this forces an immediate review of security posture, even if the suspect's motive is currently unclear. So, what does this mean for real people? Your money, your rights, your future? First, understand this. The federal charges DeFore now faces go beyond local vandalism. He's charged with damaging government property, up to 10 years in prison, physical violence in restricted grounds, also up to 10 years, assaulting or resisting federal officers, up to 20 years. This escalation matters because it sets a precedent about how the federal government responds to political violence, not just protests, not just threats, but actions against the security of national leaders. Second, it's hitting public discourse at a delicate moment, coming right after security restrictions around Vance's home were lifted, and as national debates swirl about protests, political polarization, and how far political dissent can go before it becomes criminal. Who benefits? Who pays? The government wins when it can frame this as a clear threat that justifies increased security spending, expanded surveillance, and broader law enforcement powers, things that often come with real costs to civil liberties and community policing budgets. The political class wins when they can use this moment to rally their base around law and order narratives. You, voters, taxpayers, and citizens, pay when the legal system treats complex mental health, political grievances, and public safety as one-dimensional criminal acts without addressing underlying causes. DeFore had a criminal history and previous vandalism charges tied to mental health treatment, a detail nearly buried in coverage. Here's the key revelation, the moment that actually connects the dots. The case against DeFore isn't just vandalism, it's a federal test case about how the U.S. handles politically adjacent violence when the target is a sitting national leader. The charges, heavy, escalating, structural, are going to shape how protests, threats, and political dissent are classified, not just in Cincinnati, but across the country. What happens next? Realistically, federal prosecutors will use this to justify stricter protective measures around political figures. Expect renewed funding requests for the Secret Service, expanded legal standards for threat classification, and potentially speedier prosecution paths for similar incidents. Local courts will face pressure to treat threats with national significance, not just local misdemeanors. Don't expect clarity on motive anytime soon. That's still under investigation, but the legal and political systems will move fast. Why this matters? This isn't just a story about a damaged window. It's about how violence at the margins becomes a pivot point for national policy. It's about how the system defines who is protected and who is not. It's about how fear, law enforcement, and politics intersect when the target is someone with real influence over your future. Share this so other people actually understand what's going on, not just what they heard. Talk about it below if you think this changes how the government treats political violence, or if it doesn't. And follow here for clarity, not chaos.